Welcome to the Health Over Everything podcast, everyone. I'm your co-host, Stephen Z.
And I am SoCal Gula. And today we have a very special guest with us, our friend Shanda. How you doing, Shanda?
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we're glad to have you here.
Yes.
So Shanda has a degree in health. Would you like to talk about that? What kind of degree do you have in health exactly?
Yeah. So we're hiking buddies. That's how I know you guys. We found each other on the trail. And so we've had a lot of time to talk about health and share our journeys with each other. And so that's why I'm here. So my master's degree is in health. It's actually health and strategic communication, which just sounds fancy for basically health education. And then my undergrad is in medical anthropology, which, lent itself to me going further into health since I learned about, health beliefs and health systems all over the world. That really changed, my whole belief system in health and led me on that path, along with some other things that I guess we'll get into. But yeah, and then before I did my master's in health, I did a year of my master's in nutrition.
Yeah.
So I did a whole year, and I realized that it just wasn't for me. The things they were teaching were interesting, to say the least. One of the things was they were teaching us how to read a Campbell's soup label and saying that, Campbell's soup was good for you. And it was just very almost old school. And I just didn't connect with it. From what I had been through with my own health, with my daughter's health, it didn't make sense to me. And I figured I wanted to go a different direction where I never really planned on being a registered dietitian anyways. I always wanted to do the health education route. And so after a year, I applied for other schools where I could transfer in my credits and they would give me master's credits. And I transferred down to school here. And yeah, so I'm here.
Yes. And what kind of, you said overseas is a lot different. I remember you telling me on a hike that a lot of the nutrition things are different in the UK and than in the United States. And a lot of people go by like their doctors in the United States, right?
That's so true. And I think, if you've talked to anybody who's been to Europe or to England, anywhere around there, they'll say, oh, I ate pasta and I drank milk and I ate the bread and I felt great. And then as soon as I came home, I felt bloated and sick again. And, that definitely was the case for me. Every time I've traveled over there, I can eat whatever I want and I don't feel any sort of ways. Everything is different there. There's so many. I did see in California that they are, everyone's saying they're going after Skittles, but basically, it's a first step to banning some of the ingredients. One of my good friends lives in Germany, and she was doing a candy comparison for a while, and she would have people send candy from over here and then compare it to the same thing, like a Snickers over there, an M&Ms over there in Germany, and it was completely different. All the ingredients were completely different, mostly way more. Over here in America, there was so many unnecessary dyes and ingredients. Over there, it was basically, sugar and not much else. And they have to use different kind of food colorings. The bread is manufactured differently. I think, I had learned, and I don't know the statistic off the top of my head, but they're very big on bakeries there. And so there's just bakeries on corners everywhere. The family bakery is still very much a thing, where here you get it on the shelf. You get your bread off the shelf. It's shelf stable. That's not necessarily even real bread. And so no wonder our bodies are reacting to that, where, there it's baked in the morning and you get it, it doesn't have any fillers or shelf life. And I think that's a lot of our products here, is that we have a shelf life system where whenever I go somewhere overseas, I'm eating close by I just went to England this summer,
Yeah.
and we went to Cheddar, England,
Uh-huh.
and it's the birthplace of cheddar cheese.
Oh, wow.
And so we learned how to make cheddar cheese and how they make it from scratch. And they get the milk from a dairy 7 miles away every single morning.
Oh,
So they get it in and they start the process, the cheese making process every day. It's delivered, and milkmen are still a thing there. My grandpa was a milkman up in in the United States for 30 years. And when he first started, he delivered fresh milk every morning. That's what you did. You milked the cows, or the creamery milked the cows, the dairy, and would deliver fresh milk. Now we get shelf stable pasteurized milk, here, where, there, it's even their milk, I learned this last time, is pasteurized differently. So we
Where?
use over in England, they pasteurize their milk with a different process. And I'm not a, scientist. I can't really go into it, but definitely look it up, and you can see that it's different. Here we use a high heat, high compression pasteurizing. It has to pass all these standards. There, when they do sell it in the store, it's different. Even the eggs, you go over there and you can buy eggs. I was in Spain visiting my best friend, and you just buy eggs on the regular shelf. It's because they haven't been through the system of bleaching them and washing them, and it gets all that coating off of the eggs, and then we have to put them in the fridge, or because they're susceptible to bacteria now. So
Yeah.
I think that it's just, there's so many things, you can't even pin it onto one thing about why are Americans having so many health issues with our guts, with our digestive systems. When we compare it to that, I mean, I just named a few,
Yeah.
but it goes deeper, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Because definitely I had, I even started getting health issues. That's why I went on my health journey in the first place.
mm-hmm.
And it's just like, I didn't know, like, well, I've been eating the standard American diet for 40 years. That's why.
Right. And I wasn't all the way. Luckily I grew up, we had a garden. My grandma had a garden. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest where, my mom's friend owned a farm. We were able to get more farm fresh things. Like I said, my grandpa worked at the creamery, which made me very popular in the summer because it had all the ice cream, the fresh ice cream that I would hand out to all my friends. I was like the cool one.
Steven would like
But
that.
huh?
Yep.
Steven would like that. He loves ice cream.
Yeah. Now I bring you guys oranges to hike.
Yeah.
See, we bring healthy things.
Yep.
But yeah, I had issues too. I had an ulcer when I was 8 years old.
Wow.
I mean, that shouldn't even,
No.
be a thing. And I had so many gastro problems my entire life that I guess I just thought it was normal. I didn't necessarily tell my mom. I didn't, it was just something that was me until I got a little bit older. And I was like, wait, I'm miserable. I don't feel well. I have always worked out. I was definitely always an active person. I was a figure skater when I was younger. I was out and about in the outdoors my whole life. That was one thing I've always done. But the food just messed me up. So
That's crazy because
Yeah, so I was gonna say, you got to think too. That's the one thing that you're always putting in your system. Morning, lunch, dinner. So basically, for having this poison, you're constantly having it. Like obviously, it's gonna have some long-term effects sooner or later.
right. And you can't balance out all of that farm stuff with, we all grew up in the 90s, right, where it was fruit roll-ups
Yep.
and chips and stuff in your lunch. I mean, I still had all that. And so, yeah, I just, my body's always been sensitive. My daughter's body is sensitive. I think it took me until her health things to really say, okay, we both need a change, because I can't keep living like this. And on the outside, you wouldn't be able to see it.
Yeah.
I looked in shape. But on the inside, I was suffering. I was at the doctors all the time, and no one was helping me. It was kind of just, here's some acid reflux medicine. Here's some, just take some more medicine. Take this medicine. I mean, that's all I ever heard.
Yeah.
But I'm type A, so I took it into my own hands.
What's type A?
Type A personality. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I feel like you have to because all they want to do is push a pill and have a repeated customer. They don't really want to cure you because
Mhm.
then they lose the business, they lose the money that's coming from you.
Right.
Did
And
your
do they even know how to?
I don't think most doctors know much about nutrition. Like I feel like even in
No.
nursing, a lot of it is pushing a pill, knowing what pills or treat what illness, and
Mhm.
you never really talk about nutrition or
Mm-mm.
exercise things. The things that you should be doing that are probably gonna be the things that actually help you. It's no, here, take this pill, and then when you run out, come back to me, and then I'll give you more pills.
Exactly. And I started asking doctors, have you, because I had a doctor tell me that they didn't have to take a nutrition class through their entire medical training. And
Yeah,
so it's
exactly.
become a thing. Whenever I meet a doctor, I ask them. I've only met a couple that actually took one, and it was usually because they wanted to. It wasn't
Yeah.
required. It was something that they did just because they were interested in it.
Yeah, and then also there's
Oh,
no big broccoli, right? There's big pharma, but there ain't big broccoli out there like to battle. So they're incentivized to go the pharmaceutical route.
Right?
yeah, Big Broccoli doesn't have enough money to compete.
No,
No.
definitely not.
No, and now it's a little more popular along with Brussels sprouts. They made a comeback, and but when we were younger, I mean, no one ate Brussels
No.
sprouts and broccoli.
Do you think
I
that
love
you're
those two. Those are some of my faves.
Now, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I love broccoli. Do you think your daughter's generation is more health conscious than or like raised different than we are? Because there is still a lot of obese children, but I know like you
Yeah.
said you guys had some issues, health issues.
Yeah. Do I believe that they're more health conscious? I not necessarily. Do I believe that they're more aware?
Mhm.
Yes. I mean, I think that they do know more than we did. They have the internet. We
Yeah.
didn't have that. We were taught, just like I was in nutrition school, we were taught the food pyramid, and you might have taken a couple weeks of learning how to, balance your plate and, for every meal, and that was about it.
Yeah.
Um, I do think that I do think they're more aware. They're definitely more aware of health. I just see in her and her friends, of health both mentally and physically than we were at that age. They definitely have a higher understanding for sure. Do I think it's translating to any kind of better health outcomes? I mean, I haven't seen any data. I don't really know, but from what I look and see, no, because how do you battle what's out there? All
Yeah.
her friends, they all go eat fast food every day.
Hmm.
They go eat that for lunch. That's where they hang out, especially in Southern California when there's not a lot of places to go or things to
Yeah.
do for teenagers. That's what they do. They go hang out,
Yep.
at
That's what
fast
we did.
food. And so even if they're eating at home and have health conscious family, that's what they go do. So I think they're aware, but they also, when you're that age, aren't you invincible, right? You
Oh
don't
yeah,
you don't
definitely.
Yeah.
think, oh, this isn't going to
Yeah.
catch up with me. I'm good.
I could eat as much
You're
KFC as possible.
yeah, you're skinny and good, and you
That
feel
is true.
great, and now you eat something and you have to a hangover the next day from just eating greasy
Yeah.
food or something.
Like Steven
you
was
know
saying, like me and Steven are talking, like most people, like including myself, you don't really start changing until you have that health issue. Like mine was high blood pressure and stuff. And then you like you also said that you changed too, like because you're always
Yeah.
fit, but inside you didn't feel good, and that's how I felt.
Mhm. Yeah, and my
Yeah.
daughter, I mean, that was the catalyst to it. But I think that's why I stopped doing health education. So I originally started doing health education with people. I worked with people one-on-one, but I found very quickly, unless somebody has a major issue, they are not willing to change because your food is so ingrained in you.
Mhm.
It goes back to what your parents ate. It's what your culture
Mhm.
eats. It's
Yep.
it's so ingrained that it's something that's really hard to change. And with how busy and tired we are,
Hmm.
you just want to grab something, you know. And
Yep.
and I think that's a big problem. The teenagers too are very overscheduled compared to how we were.
Yes.
They are in everything these days. I have friends that their kids don't eat until 9, 10 o'clock at night because once they get
Yep.
done, you know, with class, they are in sports and piano and this and that all the way until 9, 10 o'clock at night, you know, and they haven't even done homework or eaten dinner.
Yeah.
So
Jeez.
that's not helpful.
What time did you
You know?
guys eat when you were younger, like dinner?
Me?
Yeah.
So I have a unique situation in the fact that I'm an only child and both of my parents worked a lot. But my dad he owned his own business, so he was always home most of the time. He got home
Okay.
around 5 and we would make something. My mom sometimes was working later. But most of the time we ate around then. But one thing that I didn't like is that we didn't eat at the table.
Oh
We
no.
never ate at the table. If you went to my grandparents' house, so my grandma lived down the street. Luckily, that's where I went a lot when my parents worked late. And 5 o'clock, she had dinner on the table at 5 o'clock.
That's
If
what time I
anyone
ate.
needed dinner, 5 o'clock, sit
Yeah.
down. She would have a home cooked meal and it's just the way it was. I always said
Mhm.
she was like a pie on a Tuesday kind of person. Like she just cooked. You
Yeah.
know, she made homemade tortillas on Wednesday. She was just a really good cook and there was always dinner. So I went there if I needed to. But my dad cooked a lot and he's a good cook because my grandma taught him.
Yeah.
But we would get our food and we'd sit in front of the TV. And so that was something that I wanted to change. And so for my daughter, we sat down for dinner at the table every day, and she will tell you that. And that was our thing. And that's when I learned about her life. I mean,
Yeah, I
we would
love that.
unplug from things, and that's what I would learn everything that was going on with her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those eating rituals are important for
Yeah.
health because even when we go to certain restaurants, she'll say, well, you make that better. You make that better at home. And is it better or is it just the experience is better?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. A lot of people are eating alone nowadays. I see that.
it's very true. I know sometimes I want to get up and go eat with somebody when I see them eating alone. I feel bad.
What time do you eat dinner, Steven?
Sure, you know. What was that?
What time do you eat dinner?
I usually eat around 6 or so, give or take a little, if it's not exactly 6, I don't really care, but usually around 6, I'm pretty hungry at that point, and then I just don't like eating close to bedtime either,
Yeah, me
too.
either. That's what I do. I try to let it metabolize so I can get good sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't want to eat and then go lay down.
I know people that eat like at 8, 9 o'clock too, and it's just like I can't do
Mm-hmm.
that. But
Yeah, I think that contributes to the heartburn
yeah.
Yeah.
And
because
one
that
step back
changed
about
my
eating
thing.
like at 5 though is like my dad, like he would eat at 5, and then around 8 they get hungry again and start snacking like on ice cream and popcorn and all that stuff.
That's definitely that generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, my
I
dad
think
did that too.
my grandparents did that. Everyone did that. I don't feel that way. If I eat dinner early, I'm fine the rest of the night.
So
Yeah, I think I got my dad used to crush up like cookies or like a peanut butter bar. What is that called? Is that what they're called? The
A
ones that Bart
Butterfinger?
Simpson. Yeah, Butterfinger. He used to crush those up and like put them in his ice cream. I'll still do
sounds
stuff
good.
like that to this day. I'll get
Mm.
cookies and just crush them up as much as I could and sprinkle them all over my ice cream. So, thanks, Dad.
Oh
Well, it
yeah,
sounds good.
the Butterfinger Blizzard from DQ. Oh wait, we're
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
health podcast. We can't talk about
We're not talking about
that.
health over everything. Yeah, I don't eat that anymore.
So here's something fun.
Yeah.
So Brooklyn, my kid, she's never eaten fast food.
Oh wow.
Nice.
That is
Never.
insane. And
I
how
mean,
did that happen? Because there's so many kids, like almost every kid eats fast food and a
I
lot.
know. Yeah, and it's been difficult for her, especially the social aspect, like I said, of everyone going to eat.
Yeah.
So her friends were very accommodating to it, which was
Nice.
always heartwarming to me
Mhm.
that, she's eaten at pizza places and different things like that. So when I say fast food, I mean Taco Bell, McDonald's. She's never had McDonald's. She's never had Taco Bell. She's never had In-N-Out, which
Oh
is,
man.
I know people can't get over that one. Burger King, Wendy's, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but it started out for when I was in grad school and or actually when I was undergrad and I was doing a project and I wanted to show that you could live in America and function and
Yeah.
not have fast food. And so it started as that. And plus she had food allergies.
Mhm.
She was a really sick little kid. And in fact, I just ran across some of her medical records from when she was little, and I didn't realize how sick she actually was. It was bad. There high fevers, hives all over her all the time, covered in eczema. She was just really, really sick. And then we found out that it was food allergies was one thing, and then also some hormonal stuff. She had thyroid issues, when she's a little kid.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the not eating at fast food was fueled by that, or that fueled the not eating at fast food, because I wanted to control what was going into her body as best I could so that we could try to get her healed. So yeah, that's how it started. And then once she became aware of it, she thought it was cool, and it was a fun thing to tell people, it's like a circus act or something. Like, I've never had McDonald's, and the kids were like, what do you eat? Like, what does your mom feed you? And she's like, well, my mom cooks at home. And they're
amazing
like, what
concept.
What's that?
Yeah. What? And then they're like, what do you eat? And she's like, I don't know, normal food. So yeah, so it started like that.
So what about like Olive Garden and stuff like that, or like restaurants like that? Does she go to nice restaurants?
Yeah, yes. We do go to nice restaurants.
But those are different than
I'm
McDonald's.
pretty picky about where we go. And up until right. And I don't know that she's eaten at those places in particular. I tend to like the smaller locally owned type restaurants, that care a little more. But she has eaten at restaurants. She didn't really eat at restaurants until she was about 6.
Okay.
And that's just because I was scared. She had a list of food allergies, and I think that the world has become way more accommodating to food allergies. You can go in and sit down now, and sometimes they have menus that, are just for food allergy people, but that was not the case, 15 years ago.
Yeah, there's even a lot of like vegan places and places that have like gluten-free side of the menu.
Yeah, and hers is nuts. Hers big one was nuts. She had other things, and the nut one is anaphylactic. And so, and they're small and they get everywhere. And so if somewhere is working with nuts and cooking, it's just like sprinkle that, and who knows where else. One time we had a reaction. She had a reaction at a pizza place because they had a Nutella pizza, and they used the same, those knives that go they used the same knife to cut her pizza as that one.
Wow.
Yeah, so that scared me, because she was just, she was probably around 6 at the time, and so that made us very fearful of bringing her anywhere. After that, for many years, I would just, if we were going to go eat somewhere, I would cook her something at home and put it in a container, and we would go, because there's a social aspect to eating. It's such a social thing. And we would show up at birthday parties, and that's all anybody wanted to talk to us about, is, oh, well, what can she eat, and why did you bring her own cupcake, and all these things. And it got tiring for her. She didn't like feeling different all the time because of it. And so I kind of just made it a sneaky thing. I would just pack our own things. I would feed her. People might ask a little bit, but we never made a big deal out of it, and kind of just kept it on the down low. It's different now. As she got older, I taught her how to handle it herself, how to talk to people, because I knew she would have to one day. I had worked with college students with food allergies who didn't know how to manage them themselves, and they weren't living with their mom anymore. And I thought, there's no way I'm going to send her off to college, not knowing how to handle something like this herself.
Yeah. You got that education, is especially like when it comes to your own body, like, it's kind of an experiment, like because everyone's different a little bit, like not everyone has those allergies. So you got to kind of experiment with what works with you. But what kind of food do you eat? Like, like whole foods, or what kind of food do you suggest other people kind of like eat instead of the standard American diet?
Yeah. I think that I've gone through a lot of, what do you call it, iterations of eating. I was a vegetarian for many years, on a doctor's advice. I have been a pescatarian. I have, I've tried a lot of different things. I did try vegan for a while. That didn't last very long. I felt really terrible.
Yeah.
So I caution, I'll tell you what I eat, but I caution people listening to what I eat or what you eat or what anyone.
Definitely.
And this is when I say there's been an iteration. There was one point where, I did count calories. There was a time when I was pretty obsessed with it. And
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of those things just set me back. Becoming obsessed with it, especially with a kid with food allergies and thyroid problems, which is so tied to food. I have found that uh, it was easy for it to become something that actually started hurting our health
Oh, okay.
because you get obsessed, and
Yeah.
I watched this happen with so many people. So yes, I do eat a lot of whole foods. I like to eat food that's in its most natural form. A couple of years ago, I did start eating meat again.
Mhm.
However, I'm very picky about where it comes from.
Okay.
I order my meat for the most part straight from a farm, that I know how they raise their meat. So I'm pretty picky
Mhm.
still. Most of my friends would probably say they don't want to go out and eat it with me because I won't eat at a lot of restaurants,
Mhm.
because I do care about where the ingredients are coming from. I just because I know how it makes me feel, and I
Yeah.
got to the point where I'm picky about it, and I eat pretty well. And if I don't, like I said, it's like a hangover. I
Yeah.
do not feel well, So I eat I I eat, steak, I eat broccoli, I eat fruits, but
Yeah.
I eat, I know people who know me they're going to be mad if I don't say this, but I eat tortillas like
Yeah.
crazy. I grew up with them. I grew up with you. If you have a tortilla, you have a meal. Like I said, my grandma made them homemade flour ones, not corn, flour. And so I probably eat a tortilla every single day.
What about the whole
Um,
grain ones? That's why I just had a tortilla today.
I don't eat the whole grain ones.
Why
So I
not?
just eat, no reason besides
Oh,
I
okay.
don't like them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They don't taste
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. When you eat those just white flour ones,
Yeah. Cause
they're
no, because
so
I haven't
good.
ate tortillas in a long time and I got some today and I
Yeah.
was like, maybe I should get the whole wheat ones. They're probably better. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
still learning about all this. That's why we're talking to you.
Yeah. And I do think that a lot of people think that way, but it
Mhm.
also depends on so much more. Like you were talking about getting a sugar-free jelly or a jam.
Yeah.
There's so much marketing in that stuff.
Uh-huh.
A tortilla, and jam, they're processed foods, right? So
Mhm.
it matters what else is in them, so you're getting a sugar-free jam. Well, that doesn't even make sense because the fruit has sugar.
Yeah.
And then what else are they putting in it? Because it's sweet. So if they didn't, when they're able to say sugar-free because it's cane sugar
Oh,
that
okay.
is absent out of there, but it doesn't mean that there's not something else that's worse for you.
Mm.
And another example of this is bacon. So there's been a big craze about, using celery powder instead of nitrates to
Mhm.
process the bacon. And I read a study that the high level of celery powder has just as many nitrates and causes just as much to the body. It's the same thing. So we're replacing one thing with another.
Mhm.
So what is better? So my
Yeah.
grandma made homemade jam
Mhm.
her entire life. She made apple butter. She grew up in Washington. They had an apple tree. She made apple butter.
Mm.
They've made this for years and years and years. So is it actually better? And they made it with sugar.
Yeah.
Is it actually better to have a fake sugar or a real sugar? You
Yeah.
know, um, Whole grains. Gosh, what is that? What part of the
I
grain
don't
are
know.
they? Right.
Uh,
Meaning that, like, there's so much more to that. What else is in the tortilla? Is there
mhm.
seed oils? Is there all
Mhm.
kinds of other fillers to make it stick together? The tortillas that I eat are basically flour and water,
Mm.
and a lard. I actually eat the ones with lard, how my grandma made them. It
Yeah.
it helps them stick together, but that's it. And if
Yeah.
you go pick up a tortilla off the shelf, have you ever looked at the
I looked
ingredients?
today a little bit. Yeah.
I mean, there's like 20
Yeah.
ingredients,
Yep.
but that's all it really takes. So I try to get as much to that. I try to get as much to the source. I try to get as much to what did it used to be? Because tell me why, you know, are we living longer or are we not? I don't know. That's up for debate. I've seen statistics for both ways, but also our chronic health problems are pretty bad right now.
Yes,
You
definitely.
know, and my grandma lived until she was in her 90s. She ate ice cream every night, Stephen, almost every single night. But
You go.
she ate real ice cream. She literally made it. She
Oh,
made the ice cream. It was cream that skimmed from a cow down the street. You know, it was,
wow.
but
Probably so good too.
so good. So good. I had it
I want
whenever I
some
You're
now.
stayed there.
you're
I
making me
loved
hungry
it.
Can you
now.
make us some?
Yeah.
I want to try it.
Yeah, I know, but that's the thing is get close to the source as you can. It's like don't say, "Oh, I don't want ice cream."
Yeah.
Find it as close to the source because luckily nowadays they are making this stuff. I think when we were growing up, they got really far away from it. The big companies took over, you know, and now I think people, you know, artisan everything is coming back, right?
Uh-huh.
There's breads and cheeses and all of that. And so I always say I'm going to spend my money on that rather than on medical bills. I would
Yes.
rather I'd rather buy $10 cheese.
And where do you get some of this stuff at? 'Cause obviously, like Stater Brothers is like a generic, grocery store, but then I know there's like
Mm-hmm.
Sprouts and stuff. Is that where you go, like
Yeah,
farmer
it's
market?
Sprouts and yeah, there's farm stands and I don't want to say because I don't want to be put out my location of
Oh
where
yeah,
I
definitely not.
go. But
This is where I'll be every
But just
Saturday.
yeah,
like,
yeah.
what's a generic place that people could go, like, or somewhere that people could go, like just farmer markets and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, farmers markets are great and they have them everywhere here.
Yeah.
There's, you know, Southern California has a ton of farmers markets and I have found excellent stuff. Um, you know, because a lot of these companies, I just caution from the people that are selling too many things because if they're selling too many, you wonder where they're getting them.
Mhm.
Where I've gone to a farmer's market that sells only olive oil. They drive down from the Central California to these farmers markets and they sell their olive oil. That's
Mhm.
some good olive oil. That's they own they
Yeah.
own everything, you know, and is it a little expensive? It is. Does it taste fantastic? It does. You know, so these farmers markets, I mean, they have great stuff and they have the people that are selling them and making them and own them, they're definitely not, you know, making a ton of money because there's not a ton of money in it. They're doing it out of love,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know. But yes,
I think it's kind of like
I go to farmers market every week to answer your question.
Nice.
right. I know my fiance's mom, she does a lot of farmers markets and we'll tag along here and there. But yeah, I've seen like what you said, like the olive oil that have like the avocado olive oil and all of these
Mm-hmm.
different types and different kind of flavors in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I was gonna say too, I was like, you either pay now or you pay later for your health. I'm like, one way or another, I think you have to pay. And if you
Mhm.
choose to spend a little bit more money to get a more healthy option, it's gonna save you in the long run. You know, you may not be able to see it, but personally, that's kind of how I think it is. You pay sooner or later.
Mm-hmm. And it's enjoyable because you're eating good things. I remember when I first switched to
Mhm.
eating a little more healthy like this, and I was still shopping in the same way, and it was really expensive. And so I would go and still get a bunch of frozen food and things like that. If you saw my freezer right now, I just have a few frozen steaks in there. You know, I
Yeah.
don't buy frozen food like I used to. That kind of stuff is really expensive. What I do if I want, you know, say it takes some time to get to learn how to function a little differently.
Mhm.
So when I want to make smoothies, I just go and buy all the fruit and I cut it up and I put it in freezer bags and I separate it out into little freezer bags. And so
Mhm.
whenever I want to just pop a smoothie, you know, in my blender, I already have it measured out and it's
Nice.
fruit that I got. It was fresh. It wasn't frozen by the company. It was frozen by me. I've dated it. You know, it just took a second to cut it all up. I mean, it's pretty easy
Yeah,
in
it's
that sense.
efficient.
But
Yeah.
I did that for my kid because when she got home from school, you know, when you get home from school and you're hungry and you
Yeah.
just want something now, well, she could just
Mhm.
grab that, dump it in there, add some coconut milk or something, and you know, that's a way better snack than the pudding I used to eat and the fruit roll-ups and stuff when I used to get
Do you
home from
like,
school.
do you pre-portion it too?
I do.
Nice.
Nice.
Just for convenience.
Yeah, mostly because, yeah, and I do that even with carrots and everything
Oh, yeah.
too. So anything, I've learned that, storing things in water is your best friend. So I store, my asparagus in water.
Wow.
And also carrots, any kind of root vegetables that are like that. So carrots, radishes. When I get home from the store, I'll rinse them all because I do get them usually from the farmer's market, so
Yeah.
they're a little more dirty. And I'll rinse them, cut them up, and then I'll put them in an open container in water, just in my fridge. And so you can literally just reach in and grab it. It's already done. You don't have to rinse
Oh,
it or anything. And I make sure I use clean water. It's not tap water because it is soaking in it.
yeah.
But yeah, so I do that a lot.
It's insane.
And
Yeah, I never
and
seen that,
that's
heard about that.
I
yeah,
mean,
and
neither.
it lasts
Learning shit every day.
it lasts for a long time. Otherwise those root type vegetables and stuff tend to dry up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. And also, let's switch gears here and talk a little bit because we're gonna go pretty soon. But about your love for the outdoors. Like we met hiking.
We
Me, you,
did.
we all just met one day. We hiked a lot of
Right.
hikes. Like we literally
Yeah.
hiked 6 peaks just recently, and you did a
Yeah.
half
I mean,
marathon before.
we can't really leave out how we met. Though we
Yeah.
all got lost and found each other. It was just the fate of the outdoor heavens, right?
Yep, and that's our crew's
Um,
name.
that's our crew. Yeah.
Wrong
And
direction.
so I had been looking for years in Southern California to find friends to hike. I
Yeah.
finally talked my kid into going hiking to do the 6 pack of peaks. And by fate of the outdoor gods, I found you guys
Yeah.
and dragged you along with me. And
You know why? It's probably because you like gave up looking, and then the universe was like, well, here you go.
put you right there. Yeah. And you guys weren't even planning on being there. And then we became friends, and it's
Yeah.
been such a fun
Yeah, we
journey.
were on the wrong trail.
Yeah, you were on the wrong trail. And then you guys just said, I guess we'll just go to the top with you. And then I
Yeah.
was like, hey, those 6 pack of peaks, you should sign up for this. And you did. But yeah, so I grew up in the outdoors. I snowboarded. We owned snowmobiles. I was super lucky. I had no idea how lucky I was. I mean, I grew up in the summers boating and hiking, and I just was always outside. In fact, I remember if I would try to come in sometimes, my mom would be like, in or out, which one are you going to be?
Yeah.
Going in or out, pick one. And so I'd just pick out. So I was a little bit of a tomboy, and I was out. We had all these neighborhood boys, and we played 5 mile run on our bikes, where
Yeah.
it was like hide and seek on these 5 blocks on our bikes. And I was just always outside. I love it. It is definitely, I just feel better once I'm out there and come home. And I think we all say that, like after our hikes, we're on like this high,
Yeah, definitely.
right? Yeah. And then running, I didn't start running until I was 30.
Mm.
Running was always really, really, really hard for me.
Yeah.
I called myself not a runner. And then my dad actually ran a marathon, and I was like, oh, my dad ran a marathon. I need to
Yeah.
do something different. And I went and visited him, and I went running, and it was in Arizona, and I threw up because
Wow.
it's hard. And then
Yep.
I went back to my house, and I thought, I'm going to be a runner. I just like physically challenging myself.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that I can set a goal for and push
Mhm.
myself like I can't in other things. And so yeah, I started running at 30, and then I started, I was on the 5K circuit where I got addicted to doing 5Ks, and then it became 10Ks, and I can't even tell you how many I've run.
Yeah.
But it was always training for something, and then last year, was it last year, I think at 42, I ran my first half marathon, and
Yep.
that's soul rocking. That was tough. It was
Yeah.
tough. Yeah. And so I'm going to continue to be like this. I work out every day almost. I get up in the morning and I work out. The days I don't, I'm tired. and I don't function as well.
Yep.
And it's become part of my life where it's not really an option. I don't know something. I've done it for so long now that it's just what I do.
Yeah. It's lifestyle.
You probably feel bad if you didn't do it. Like,
I
I don't know,
do.
working
Definitely.
out just makes you feel good.
Yeah. And I
What
taught
about-
yoga for years too. And
Oh,
so
nice.
I still do that. I don't teach anymore, but I do yoga almost daily. I do yoga stretches, and even when I'm like brushing my teeth and stuff.
Yeah. So you eat really well. You eat like nice food that's
I do.
really less ingredients. You exercise. You
Mhm.
love the outdoors, being in the sun. Like,
Mhm.
so is that the key to health?
I think it's part of it. Then the other part that we, haven't talked about is the mental part. I mean,
Yeah.
but I think, what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? So
Yes, that's true.
so you can be really down in the dumps and feel terrible and start doing all of these things, and it will make you feel better. I mean,
Mhm.
it just naturally
Yes.
will. The endorphins, the good food,
Hmm.
so I think that's the component that a lot of people don't talk about is you can have a really toxic life and you can be eating really well. And because that's happened in my life before,
Yeah.
eating well, and I was working out, but my relationships were toxic.
Mhm.
My job was toxic, and I wasn't well. It doesn't,
Yeah.
so, it's kind of a package thing that you have to be intentional about having all of those things. You need to be sleeping well. You need
Yep.
to make sure, and I think that when you're eating well and you're working out, you're more in tune with your body, right? So your
Mhm.
energy, if you're around certain people, you start noticing, hey, wait, maybe this person isn't so good for me, or
Yes.
maybe this job isn't so good for me.
Mhm.
And so it's like those things will naturally go. You need to let them. You need to go with it if you're actually on this health journey. And it's tough, right? Like your friends change, things change, but it's your
Beautifully
dedication
said.
to yourself is the only thing that matters, right? And you have to do it for the people that you love and for yourself.
Yep. Like I said, well said. Because I know me and Steven, both of our mental health has gotten better because of all this, and we're
Yep.
getting close to 5:45.
Definitely.
Is there anything else you want to ask her, Steven?
I did have some questions, but I don't know if I want to open up a can of worms right now.
Yeah, you're okay. I have a few more minutes. Go ahead.
One of them was in the beginning of the podcast, you were talking about when you started learning about nutrition, like going to school and learning actually changed your whole viewpoint on it. Like, what did you learn actually that was the thing that switched your perspective on it?
Yeah, I think it was a timing thing of it's like if you hear something or learn something, it has to be the right time for it to sink in, right? Or if someone says something to you, it might just not be the right time. Well, it was kind of the right time. So I was in a class called food and culture, and at the same time I was going through health issues, which we didn't even get into, but I had the start of colon cancer, and I was 27 years old. And the same time, my daughter was extremely sick, and I was taking this class, food and culture. And it was the first time I learned about genetically modified food. I was like, how did I get this far in my life and not know this? At the same time, I was learning that my daughter had food allergies. And, so because I started learning about how food was processed around the world, that was before I had experienced it myself by going to those places,
Mhm.
and how people eat and how we just eat entirely too much and how people were sustaining in other places by not, it just rocked my whole view of what our meals were. I had learned that you have 3 complete meals and you need to eat breakfast and you
Mhm.
need all of these things. And until then, I subscribed to that. And then I started learning, wait a second, there's places that eat dessert for breakfast and they feel okay. Or, I'm talking about like pastries and different things that they eat in
Yeah.
France. And,
Yeah.
it's different, but that kind of shook up everything for me and made me start questioning. And when you have a sick child, you question everything.
Mhm.
Your world gets turned upside down, and she was sick. I mean, and there was nobody giving me any answers. And so naturally, I started looking at what am I feeding her? I was at the time I was feeding her some, the frozen chicken nuggets out of the frozen food aisle and, things like that. And I started looking at all of that stuff and I went, uh-oh, maybe this isn't such a good idea. If you look around the world, family gardens are a huge staple of people's lives. Even in Spain, my best friend living in Spain, everyone has a rooftop garden, and she was in Barcelona in the city. The grocery stores are really small. You
Mhm.
go there and you get basics. We couldn't even buy spaghetti sauce because it's so easy to make your own spaghetti sauce. You literally just cook down some tomatoes and add a little bit of water and some spices, and you literally
Yeah.
have tomato sauce.
Huh.
So you couldn't even buy those things. And this was just a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
when I was there. And so
Interesting.
that was the beginning of me starting to look at things like that. That class changed my life. And here's a fun thing that goes around is that I ended up then being the TA for that class, the teacher's assistant. So then
Uh-huh.
I got to help teach it. And now my kid is at the same college taking the class from him, from
Oh,
the
wow.
same teacher. And she just told him the other day, who she was. And he was like, wow, the last time, your mom was the teacher's assistant for me and you were like 2 years old. And
Yeah.
she got to tell him that it just changed our whole world. And,
Beautiful.
as a professor, I'm sure
Oh,
he
yeah.
was, yeah, he's a great guy anyways, but
Yeah.
he had been all around the world and he just, it changed everything for me. And if I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Omnivore's Dilemma.
No, I haven't.
It's Michael Pollan. So he does a
Oh,
lot of books. Yeah, he has another one called Cooked.
Mm-hmm.
But we had to read The Omnivore's Dilemma. And I think that was really the start. That was like the start of Food Inc., if you've ever read that, and where the farmers were suing Monsanto for the first time.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and I started learning about all of that. And like I said, that rocked me. I couldn't believe what they were doing to these farmers. I couldn't believe the blackmail that was kind of going on for them to grow their wheat and
Yeah.
corn and how there was no testing to see what it would do for humans. And, at the same time, I'm sick. I'm 27 years old with, the
Yeah.
possibility of colon cancer, and my kid is throwing up with 104 fevers. You start
Mhm.
going, well, wait a second here,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, um, it, what's happened though in the time since then is I've got to educate so many people. I've been able to help so many people, professionally and non-professionally.
Yeah.
I've helped my mom. I've helped my family members. I'm dedicated to this.
Helping
This
us.
isn't just huh?
You're helping us as well.
Yeah, and it's not just. It is who I am now.
Nice.
It's not just, it is my lifestyle, but it is who I am. And if people were going to talk about me, they would probably tell you that, I'm healthy.
Oh, definitely.
I live that
I admire that.
lifestyle, and I just at this point know I don't know any other way. And I'll continue to help you guys in any way that I possibly can.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you guys.
Thank you.
You guys, I'm
Thank you.
so proud of you, and I am so happy I met you guys.
Ditto.
Just became fast friends
Yes,
instantly.
exactly.
And
And
you bond over being healthy, right?
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
not very many people are healthy. So like,
Right.
especially when you meet an awesome person like you with a positive attitude and like
Thank you.
a lot of knowledge, like
Sorry, I'm blurry.
it's definitely a great relationship.
Yeah,
And
it's been fun. And so we have to set more goals. We're gonna run a race,
yep,
and then we're gonna keep this health train a moving.
no doubt.
Push each
Thanks,
other,
Definitely.
right? This is
Yeah.
friends you need that push each other, and
It's only friends I
Oh.
want.
right. Well, you got us.
Yeah. And there's a lot to get into and a lot you could take a deep dive. We could talk about a lot of stuff. We could go on for hours. So maybe we can have you
I'll
back
come
one
back.
time.
I'll come
Yeah,
back.
for
Yeah.
sure.
And we'll talk.
I feel like we just got started.
We definitely got to get you
if I
back on here.
If I didn't have to go, but yeah, please. I mean, now we got kind of the basics
Yeah.
out, and so if you want to, dive more into my health stuff and
Yeah,
different
definitely.
things that I did more specifically
Yeah.
for it, which were definitely more herbal and things like that.
Yeah, definitely would like to learn all this stuff because like I'm learning as I go because I'm just
Yeah.
new to this kind of like relatively new.
Yeah. And disclaimer, I'm not a doctor or anything
Oh
like
no, yeah,
that.
this is your own personal
But
journey.
I mean, yeah, there's just little things that I learned along the way of, like apple cider helps with, apple cider vinegar helps with heartburn.
Oh, nice.
There's all these really simple little things that are right there and available for everyone. So yeah, so have me back,
Yes, definitely.
and we can direct it towards that kind of stuff if you would like.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, nice having you, and thank you so much
Thank
for
Yeah,
you.
thank you for
sharing some
coming
of your
on.
knowledge.
It's nice.
This was fun. Thank
Yeah,
you.
definitely. And I'll see
Okay.
you soon.
Health
Yeah,
over
next time.
everything.
Living that whole life,
Yeah.
How to put that in there. How to throw that
Yes,
in
do
there.
it.
HOE, health over everything. All right.
Love
Well,
it. Bye, guys.
all right. Bye.
Have a good
Talk to
night.
you soon.
Alrighty.
Bye.